Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital, and my special guest today is Jimmy Grant. Now, I wanted to get him on the show because there's all kinds of people who need what he serves and the area that he's in. And what area is he in? A premier personal injury attorney, and he holds insurance companies accountable. Now, don't we all need that? So I thought it'd be a really interesting guest to have on the show. And of course, stay to the end. We also got some free offers for you as well, too. So stick around and there's more to come. So welcome to the show, Jimmy. Glad to see you today. How are you?
No, I'm super excited to be here. I'm glad to be on. We're going to have a good time.
Yes, I certainly hope so. Now, giving you a brief introduction, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and like how did you get into this field and tell us a little bit about where you're from, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so my story takes all sorts of twists and turns because I did not follow the prototypical lawyer path. Most
Okay.
lawyers, they, go to college and they get like an English degree or a pre-law degree, and then they just go to law school. I went to Georgia Tech and I was a civil engineer. And
Oh,
up until probably a semester and a half before I graduated, I
right.
was going to be a civil engineer, had job offers and everything, and just kind of on a whim was like, let's go to law school. That'll be fun. Everyone in my family thought I was ridiculous, and probably rightly so, because who does that? But I applied to a handful of law schools. I got accepted. I went to a small private school in Montgomery, Alabama called Faulkner University that no one's ever heard of. Did my 3 years down there,
Right.
and I thought I was going to do something with like patent law or maybe environmental law and like
Okay.
merge my two degrees together.
Yeah.
But I got some experience in the courtroom and was like, oh no, this is way fun. This is
Uh-oh.
sales, this is performance, it's just everything. I was like, this is where I'm going. So I came back home to Georgia after I graduated. I took the bar, passed it on the first time, and I was a
Good.
prosecutor for the first year and a half, 18 months. And I got a ton of trial experience. I mean, it was just amazing. I probably tried more cases in the 18 months I was there as a
Right.
prosecutor than some attorneys try in their entire tenure. And then after my public service was up, I got a job at a law firm that did what I call door law, meaning if you walked through that front door,
Oh,
you had a case and you had cash, they were going to handle it,
gotcha.
whether they were experts in that field or not.
Right.
So I didn't know what I was doing day to day. I was thrown into so many different things. And again, it was great for me because it was a very, very, very steep learning curve. And I just
Hmm.
acquired a lot of knowledge. But my business partner at the time, or now at the time, he started 2 weeks before me at that firm. And
Okay.
very quickly, he and I looked at each other and were like, are you ready to do this? Is this going to be a thing? And January of 2015, we opened the doors of Georgia Trial Attorneys, and it's been, pedal to the metal ever since. And we haven't looked back, and it's been great.
Awesome. Well, that's a great story. It's you kind of fell into it in some ways, but you found it or it found you, one or the other.
Hey, I mean, however it worked, it worked. I'm happy where I've gotten to today. We've been able to grow a really great business, help a lot of
Good.
people, do a lot of good things.
So, since you've been in the field, what sort of changes have you seen, and what's different though over the last several years that you started since 2015? Let's say.
The biggest thing across the board had to be COVID. COVID changed everything for so many industries
Okay.
because there weren't many industries where you flip a switch, everybody goes home,
Hmm.
and you still have to work.
Right.
And you were required to adapt and adjust and change so fast. And the legal community is notorious for being, just the slowest pace that you could ever imagine, and multiplying that by 10 million. That's how fast the legal community moves with changes.
Mm.
And we were used to, you show up in court and you have hearings in person where you're surrounded by 100 other lawyers and their clients, and
Sure.
it's this just long time arduous thing. And it was great because it forced the courts to adjust and say, well, this could have been an email, or
Mm.
this could have been a Zoom call or
Okay.
a phone call. And the industry just was able to adjust from a oversight standpoint from the courts, but then also businesses had to adjust so fast and figure out, how do we practice law? How do we help people virtually? And
Hmm.
you're still able to have the ability to network, to build relationships, to give advice, to
Okay.
present information, and still have a relationship with someone, even though it is virtual, and learning those skills. So being able to run a virtual business through an experience like COVID, where you're forced into it to be able to adapt and overcome,
Hmm.
that's probably one of the biggest changes, because Some people just shut their doors and stopped, where others, in my case, my firm grew through COVID. We actually acquired a large market share where
Mm.
others were trying to figure out how they can reduce.
Hmm. And then, since it's probably post COVID, I'm curious then what would be some of the growth areas? Because then, with COVID having such a huge impact, there's got to be a lot of change coming out of COVID as well, too. So, could you address what has happened since that time, and what would you say are some of the growth areas since post COVID?
Yeah, so I mean, along the same line, technology is just it's crazy right now. We're experiencing and being thrown into so much. One of the biggest things that's in the forefront of my mind right now is AI. You've
Sure.
got Chat GPT, you've got all these different AIs that are out there, and
Hmm.
I liken this year to the early 90s, back when the internet was invented, really the late 80s. That was an industry defining moment for the world across all fields of
Sure.
practice. We're dealing with that right now because whether you like it or not, AI is coming, and AI is here to stay, and AI is going to revolutionize some part of your business, your practice. And you can either choose to acquire that and learn that and implement it, or you can say, well, that's just a fad and it's going to go away. This is not going away, and you have to be able to understand what it is and how you can use it to leverage AI to benefit your clients, your customers, your employees, everyone. Because AI is not going to come in, it's not going to be like Skynet in the Terminator movies, where all of a sudden, like, laser beams are being shot and humans are being destroyed. But AI is going to help one human take the job of 10 or 20 humans,
Mm.
because you're able to do things efficiently, accurately, and not have to worry about the human error necessarily, where you have a highly skilled individual leveraging AI to then benefit them. That's probably one of the biggest things. And then, kind of a side note is, I've seen a lot in especially my industry where people niche down and they find a specialty.
Hmm.
Especially in the legal field, you used to come across, well, you just went down to the old attorney that was across from the courthouse,
Sure.
and they did everything. They did your family law, they did your criminal defense, they did your estate planning, they did everything, and they because that's the way it worked. Whereas now, even in my field of personal injury, I'm not necessarily a B2C business to consumer. I'm actually a B2B business.
Okay.
We found a niche, and my job is helping other personal injury lawyers make more money faster and with less stress by serving as their outsourced litigation department. And there's not really many people in my space. I don't have a lot of competition, so I have a vast portion of the market share.
Hmm.
So my encouragement to business owners, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're an entrepreneur of any sort, is find that niche. Become an expert in your field and have people come to you for your expert services, not just because you dabble in a little bit of everything.
Hmm. I was on a panel last week, Northeast Distance Learning Association. We were talking about Chat GPT and all this artificial intelligence. How does it apply to the legal profession, or what ways have you found those kinds of artificial intelligence useful? Can you give some examples that might be helpful?
Yeah. So the most common thing that a lot of my peers use Chat GPT for is like helping them with social media. That is like the absolute bare minimum of AI. And if you're using it, great, but like just understand that you are scratching the surface.
Mm.
I'll give you an example of something that we've done recently. With hiring for different positions.
Yep.
If for instance, when I was hiring an executive assistant position, well, I just went to Chat GPT and said, "Hey, Chat GPT, I want you to create me a job description with KPIs for an executive assistant." And you'll have some back and forth with the AI and come in and refine and work on different things and focus on this, not focus on that.
Yep.
But in a matter of maybe a few minutes, you have an entirely built out job description with key performance indicators.
Mm.
Well, then you upload that to whatever your job board is. You get your resumes, then you take it a step further. Say, hey, within this same thread, copy and paste. Here is the resume for this candidate. Based on this job description, how would you review this candidate? What red flags would you see based upon their resume? Now you see the red flags. What questions would you ask this individual in an interview? Get the questions. Build me a script for the interview with this particular candidate based
Mm.
on this job description. Great. Now I go do the interview. here are my notes from the interview. What follow-up questions and information do you have for this candidate? Go and do that, provide it now. Now, based on this candidate, I want you to do the same thing and rate and compare that candidate with candidate B over here and tell me which one I should hire.
Mm.
That is effectively the job of a high-level HR specialist, which
Sure.
you're now able to leverage an AI to where your director of HR can be so much more efficient with their time. It's
Mhm.
not that somebody's losing their job, it's just that somebody is being more efficient with their time to then leverage those resources to just cover a vast array. And that, I mean, that's just, again, that's still scratching the surface. But as far as automation and building and there's just a ton that's out there. It's really mind blowing when you start to dive into what this software and system can do.
And it's one of the things I noticed about your background as well too, that you have an application for marketing as well too, and usually that's not what we think about with attorneys because you say they do a lot of other things and not necessarily marketing. But have you applied it to marketing and some of the things that you do at using AI?
Yes, I mean, number one, a lot of times people don't realize this, but the case goes to the person that's the best marketer most of the time, not necessarily the best lawyer. And
Mm,
that's it's an inherent disconnect because you generally want to hire the best lawyer, but you don't know where they are. Generally, the best lawyers don't have the best business sense. They don't have the best marketing or sales. So you have to kind of find the pieces that you want and put them together. We found a great system for being able to leverage marketing. My marketing is different because I'm not necessarily a B2C. I'm B2B. So it's more about building relationships. And again,
mhm,
using ChatGPT and other AIs that are out there to help leverage, scripts for me as far as, again, not that I'm a scripted person, but different things to highlight for different people based upon the information that the internet has already provided on them. You can kind of build dossiers on a lot of people. It's kind of scary to think about that, but
yeah.
you can have this system gear your message towards one or two specific people, and it's going to be different each time because again that helps you when you're building relationships. Not that you need to be fake, not that you need to try
Right.
to force something, but again having more information when you enter a relationship helps you know where to go and to drive things and drive the discussion to get into that end point of making a sale and then leveraging that going forward, because it's not just a one-time thing. You're always maintaining these relationships, whether it's a relationship with a new vendor, a new referral partner, a new
Mhm.
customer, a former customer. It's all about making sure that that relationship is maintained from the beginning and really even before throughout and into the future.
Gotcha. So most of your business then is directed to business owners, as you said. So I'm curious now, what kinds of things that you recommend a business owner to be thinking of in relationship to your field? Like what should cross their mind and how can you assist them? What kinds of things can you do for them?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, with my role, my job is to help other personal injury lawyers make more money faster and with less stress by serving as their outsourced litigation department.
Mm,
And the way that takes form is, pretty much everybody within their geographic area can say, these are the big law firms that handle personal injury. They're on buses, billboards, TV, radio.
sure.
You hear them and see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone has those first few toll-free numbers or those big names. And there's a lot of firms that are like that. They're very good at that marketing and sales. They're very good at the first part of a personal injury case, which is what we call pre-litigation. And if that's where you're good, that's where you need to stay. If you found a secret
Mm,
sauce, then stay in that part. But the team that you need to build a pre-litigation personal injury department is not the same team that can carry you through the next phase where not every case settles. Most cases do settle pre-litigation,
yeah.
but the cases that don't settle pre-litigation need to go into the litigation phase.
Mm,
And that team that got you there with pre-litigation is not really the team that can get you through the litigation process. The example I give is it's kind of like football and baseball. You know, Tom Brady, very, very skilled athlete in football, but you can't put him as a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves and expect him to succeed.
right.
The skills don't translate. So the
Hmm.
same thing with that team that's great at pre-litigation, it's probably not going to be great in the others. And the same thing. So pre-litigation and litigation, they're their own fields. They need to really stay in their lanes. And we found that by building a solely litigation department and law firm, that we're able to then help other personal injury lawyers. I'm in the business of now helping them and their clients, as opposed to there are some other law firms that claim to do what we do, but they also still will take some of the proceeds from working with other law firms and then invest into a pre-litigation marketing campaign to where now they're competing with those law firms that they're claiming to help.
Mm.
We just say, we're not going to do that. We only want to be your litigation partner and partner with you to not compete with you.
I see. So, what sort of expertise would you offer then? Say a person is listening, and what would you say that your expertise, kind of the differentiating factor, as I always think about it? What's different about your services as opposed to every other person who's in your field?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of like I said, we decided that we were going to niche down into this
Mm.
personal injury outsourced litigation business model, that our niche had to be that we want to be a partner, not a competitor.
Yeah.
And by removing the aspect of then competing with our
Mhm.
pre-litigation partners, it's a disingenuous relationship. So now I really have the authentic ability to say, I want to partner with you. I want to grow with you. I never want to compete with you.
Gotcha.
And then that establishes a baseline to now where we can have a true relationship and build something, as opposed to kind of having this like cagey
Hmm.
relationship where it's like, do I really want to help him grow? Because then that means he's going to invest in this other thing to then compete against me. And
Yes.
it's, you know, we just cut it out. So it's like, hey, let's just go and grow together and build each other up, as opposed to kind of fighting against each other through that.
Hmm. It's really interesting. So it's a really unique slant in a lot of ways, and it's not necessarily something I was thinking of, right? Because I had a first impression, I think a lot of people do, about personal injury and the insurance and what have you, but you got a completely different approach, and it's a fresh approach. So I think that's really in your favor. Now, if a person had been listening and that's now they see kind of the unique things that you offer, how would you recommend that they get a hold of you? Sometimes they want call, website, email, or whatever it was. How would a person reach out to you then?
Yeah, so I mean, the best way to get in touch with us is through our toll-free number, which also happens to be our URL for our website. And that toll-free number is 833 for the win. So that's 833, the number 4, the win. Putting it to a URL, 833forthewin.com. And if you're an attorney, if you're a personal injury lawyer, we give away a ton of our free resources as far as complaints, motions, demands, letters, because our mantra is a rising tide raises all ships. And if that's the stuff we give away for free, imagine what it's like working with us.
Sure. And could this be anyone in the country too? I'm always
Yeah.
curious about because sometimes attorneys have limitations on where they can practice, but this is nationwide, then you're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, all our stuff is available for nationwide. Currently, our law firm right now practices in Georgia, but we've got some plans within the next year or so to expand into other states and maybe eventually one day get national.
Oh, awesome. That sounds very exciting. Thank you very much for appreciate your time, like taking out some time of your busy schedule. So very interesting ideas and very interesting slant on all this whole field of law and personal injury.
No, thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
You bet. So, if you've been listening to the end of the program and you want something like Google or Facebook ads or simple things like looking at website, get in touch with me too. I give a free complimentary website analysis. And if you're looking for something really big and larger scale, I also work for custom softwares or Amplify Labs. And if nothing else, and you have not gotten a chance to pick up a novel, pick up one of those as well. So until next time, this is the Doctor of Digital signing off. Thanks again for Jimmy being my guest today. Until next time, Deus Volt.